On GED Social Studies, when you have to determine what a certain word means, like platform, just go ahead and find it in the passage they give you. Then, we're going to replace this with each of the answer choices. We'll plug in that whole phrase right there, read it, and see if it makes sense. And then we'll do that one by one and see which one makes the most sense. That can let us know what this word means in this context. Okay, let's do it. This excerpt is from a political analysis, so it has to do with politics. We'll go ahead and read it once through. The candidate's platform focuses on economic growth, education reform, and healthcare access. In this excerpt, what does the word platform mean? Let's go ahead and replace it with the first one here. The candidate's raised surface for public speaking focuses on economic growth. But unfortunately, a raised surface, that's a physical platform, that doesn't focus on economic growth, unless it's really smart. So it's not going to be the first one. We'll get rid of that. The next one, let's plug in B. The candidate's network for providing services focuses on economic growth. Now, this definitely fits a lot better, but we don't know for sure that this candidate has a network or a group of people to help them focus on these three things here. So it's possible, we're just not 100% sure. So let's keep looking. Let's plug in C. The candidate's set of ideas and policies focuses on economic growth, education reform, and healthcare access. Well, this definitely fits the best so far. And these three things, they do sound like the ideas that they're focused on. Does sound like it could be their platform. And then policies, those are things that you hope to enact once you're elected. So a candidate is running for a political position. They're talking about their platform. Those are their ideas and the policies, the things they hope to accomplish once they are elected. So this definitely seems to be the right fit here. So C, that looks like the best option. And let's plug in the last one just to check. The candidate's transportation station focuses on economic growth. But a transportation station that's like a train station, that's using platform like Harry Potter, platform 9 3/4. So it's funny, but it's not right. Okay, so if we're between B and C, we know for sure that these are their ideas. We're not 100% sure that they have a group of people to provide these services. So that's where we lean towards this one, and that is the correct option here. So by plugging in, it can help you eliminate some options, and then you can go with your gut to see which of those fits best there. Okay, let's try another one. What does the word ratified mean in the passage? Even if you have no idea what a word means, you can still use the context to help you figure it out. Let's read it. In 1791, the Bill of Rights was ratified, there it is there, by a majority of states and added to the Constitution to protect individual freedoms. These rights guaranteed basic liberties for citizens. Okay, so basically the Bill of Rights was ratified by a majority of states and added to the Constitution. Let's go ahead and plug in here. Let's see what's going on. The first one, officially approved. The Bill of Rights was officially approved by a majority of states and added to the Constitution. Well, that does seem to match, because if something's approved, people liked it, and if they liked it, they would want to add it to the Constitution. So A is looking really nice so far. That's probably it. Let's double check the other ones. B, the Bill of Rights was widely criticized by a majority of states and added to the Constitution. Now, if something's criticized, then people didn't like it. And if you didn't like something, you wouldn't want to add it to the Constitution. That's one of the founding documents for the United States. So this definitely doesn't fit the context very well. We'll get rid of that. Okay, the third one, strongly opposed. The Bill of Rights was strongly opposed by a majority of states and added to the Constitution. But to oppose something, that means you have problems with it, you don't like it. It's kind of like criticizing something. So again, you wouldn't want to add it to the Constitution if you oppose it or don't like it. So C, that's out as well. Okay, the last one, temporarily delayed. Is that what ratified means? The Bill of Rights was temporarily delayed by a majority of states and added to the Constitution. Now, we don't have any context that it was delayed. They don't say that, 5 years later it was added. So there's nothing telling us that there was any type of delay. We'll get rid of that. But there's definitely evidence that it was approved, because in this year it was approved by a majority of the states and added to the Constitution. That definitely seems to fit the passage the best. And that is true. So ratified, it means that something was officially approved. So there we have it. Okay, let's practice another one. Some of the answers might be correct definitions. For instance, an assembly. It is a process of putting parts together. That is true, because you assemble Legos or IKEA furniture, you're basically just putting the parts together. So that is a correct definition. But again, you just want to make sure it matches with the context. So let's see here. The passage summarizes a colonial era document. Colonial era means before the country was founded, so before 1776. Okay, colonial leaders called for an assembly to discuss new taxes imposed by Britain. Basically, leaders were calling for an assembly to discuss new taxes. Okay, representatives from several colonies met to debate possible responses and coordinate their actions. So let's go ahead and do our trick. Let's replace assembly with each of these. The first one, colonial leaders called for an process of putting parts together to discuss new taxes. But this one just doesn't seem to flow very well. Doesn't seem like they're putting parts together to discuss new taxes. So the first one, not a great fit. The next one, B, colonial leaders called for a group of people gathered for a purpose to discuss new taxes. This definitely seems to fit here. And we actually know they are gathered for a purpose to discuss new taxes. And if we keep reading, the context tells us that it is a group of people as well. They say representatives, these are like leaders from the several colonies. That's the group of people who are gathering together. So we've got evidence for both parts of this definition here. And B, that's how assembly is being used. It's a group of people gathered for a purpose. Okay, the third one, we'll just double check the last two. A technique used in manufacturing. But manufacturing has to do with a factory putting things together. That's not what they're talking about. We'll get rid of that. And then D, a guide for completing a task. Now they are completing a task or discussing something, but they're not calling together a guide to be able to do it. This would just be one person, a guide, but they're calling for a group of people, these representatives here. So it's nice when you can eliminate three options, and you know for sure you're on the right track there. Okay, let's check out another. In this quote, what does measures mean? This is a quote from President Franklin D. Roosevelt, his inaugural address from 1933. Let's see what he says. Our greatest primary task is to put people to work. It can be accomplished in part by direct recruiting by the government itself, through this and other measures. All right, well, there's measures right there, but let's try to summarize. He says our primary task, the main thing we're focused on, is to put people to work. Putting people to work, it's the same thing as making sure that they have jobs. He says it can be accomplished in part, so partly, by direct recruiting by the government. What does that mean? Well, if the government recruits somebody, that means that they hire them for a job. So it sounds like the government is directly recruiting or directly hiring people to give them jobs. And that would put people to work there. So that's one of the measures that's being taken. All right, that definitely makes more sense now. But you could come up with your own definition before you look at the answers. It seems like they're talking about ways to accomplish this goal of finding work for people. That's what a measure is. So let's go ahead and see if any of these kind of match here. The first one, strict limitations. Let's plug that in. Through this and other measures or strict limitations. Well, you don't really want strict limitations. That would limit the way you're able to do something, not give you many options. But if you're trying to put people to work throughout the whole country, you want a lot of options, not strict limitations to do it. So A doesn't really match what they're going for here. The next one, tools used for building. This is just one of these funny answers that's talking about actual tools, physical things. That's not what they're talking about here. So B, that's no good. The third one, methods for determining size. Now, maybe they are determining the size of how many people need work, but that's not really fitting very well either. Through this and other methods for determining size just doesn't sound quite right. So C, that's probably not it. But the last one, through this and other actions taken to achieve a goal. That flows pretty nicely there. And we do know they are achieving a goal of putting people to work. And we also know there are actions that are being taken here, right? The government is recruiting and hiring people. That's helping achieve the goal. And there's other actions or measures that can be taken as well. So D, that's a great option, and that's the correct one. So measures, those can be actions taken to achieve a goal, and that's how it's being used here. Okay, let's look at one last one. In this passage, what does framework mean? This passage summarizes a speech by Abraham Lincoln. He was the president during the Civil War in the 1860s. Lincoln argued that the Union must be preserved. He stated that the nation could not survive half slave and half free. Slavery was still legal during this time in the U.S., and that the Constitution provided the framework, there it is, for maintaining unity. So it sounds like unity of our country, that's what he wants to maintain. Okay, so basically, the Constitution, it provides a framework for maintaining unity in our country. Let's go ahead and replace these one by one. A, the Constitution provided the detailed set of laws for maintaining unity. But this answer, it sounds a little too specific and too strong. We're not sure that the Constitution has detailed sets of laws to maintain unity. Hey, you want to maintain unity? Just do this, 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 and hey, you got it. Because unity, it's hard to do. You don't really have a detailed set of laws how to accomplish it. So that one doesn't seem to fit. Okay, the next one. The Constitution provided the established process or method for maintaining unity. Well, it sounds like perfect unity has already been established as a process, but that's also not realistic. There's not an established process, or this kind of sounds like step-by-step instructions of how to make it happen. Doesn't sound very realistic there. Let's keep looking. Basic system or structure. The Constitution provided the basic system or structure for maintaining unity. But this definitely feels much better, right? That's what the Constitution provides, a basic system for how our government runs and the rights that people have. And it's that basic system that can allow us to maintain unity. So C, this is the best option so far. Because the last one, the Constitution provided the physical support scaffold for maintaining unity. But again, anytime it's a physical object, that's kind of like the first one, a raised surface, transportation. Anytime they're talking about a physical thing, it's probably not the right answer. So that's definitely no good. But if we're left with these three here, we notice that the first one and the second one, they're very detailed, they're very specific. The third one is more general. If one of them is different than the other two, that can point us in the direction that that might be the correct option. And it definitely is here. So a framework, it's a basic system or structure, and that's how it's being used in this passage here. Here's a video on the U.S. Constitution, since we've talked about that a bit in this video. Check out my website for practice problems on all 4 GED subjects. Let me know what questions you have, what else you want me to cover. Good luck, you got these. We'll see you in the next video. Toodles.